The little girl's hand trembled as she lifted it for just a second. No more than a flicker of movement in the bright, crowded supermarket. But that single motion carried a lifetime of fear inside it. Between the towering shelves of cereal and the hum of fluorescent lights, her small fingers formed a shape that didn't belong to childhood games or playful waves. It was a silent plea, a secret signal meant only for someone who knew how to see it. Most people rushed past with carts full of groceries and distracted minds. But one person saw, and in that moment, everything changed. If you believe that kindness still exists in this world, that one moment of courage can save a life, please take a second right now to like this video, comment, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep stories like this alive. Stories of second chances and quiet heroes. The supermarket was unusually busy for a Tuesday afternoon, the kind of place where lives briefly brushed against each other and then drifted apart forever. Officer Daniel Reeves had stopped in after his shift to buy a few things before heading home. He was still in uniform, his badge catching the overhead lights as he pushed a cart slowly through the aisles. He wasn't on duty anymore, but the habits of vigilance never really left him. He noticed things most people didn't. Restless movements, forced smiles, the way tension hid behind ordinary scenes. That was why he noticed the girl. She couldn't have been more than 8 years old. She walked a few steps behind an adult man, her head slightly lowered, her shoulders pulled inward as if she were trying to take up as little space as possible. The man's hand was clamped around her wrist, not violently enough to draw attention, but tight enough to control. Daniel's instincts stirred, but instincts alone weren't enough. Children got dragged through stores by impatient parents every day. Fear could look a lot like shyness if you didn't know how to read. Then the girl looked up. Her eyes met Daniel's for less than a heartbeat. In that brief second, her face didn't show confusion or curiosity. It showed calculation, desperation. And then her free hand moved, slow and deliberate, forming a signal Daniel had learned in a training video months ago, a silent distress sign used by victims who couldn't speak. It was subtle, it was brilliant, and it was unmistakable. Daniel's breath caught in his chest. The world seemed to narrow to that one aisle. The sound of carts rolling, children laughing, announcements over the intercom, all of it faded. There was only the girl and that signal, hanging in the air like a whispered scream. Daniel didn't rush. He didn't shout. He didn't alert the man. Panic could make things worse. He simply adjusted his grip on the cart and began to follow at a distance, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and resolve. The man guided the girl through the store with a stiff, unnatural patience. He avoided eye contact with others, kept his body angled slightly to block her from view. Daniel noticed everything, the way the girl flinched when the man leaned closer, the way her steps hesitated as if she were counting them, measuring time. Daniel pretended to browse nearby shelves, keeping them in his peripheral vision, positioning himself so they never left his sight. As they moved toward the back of the store, Daniel quietly reached for his radio, shielding the motion with his body. He called for backup, keeping his voice calm, controlled. He described the situation without urgency that might alert anyone nearby. Every second mattered, but so did discretion. The girl's name, Daniel would later learn, was Lily. Lily had learned the signal from a short video shown at school just weeks earlier. It was part of a safety program, one of those lessons most kids forgot by the time the bell rang. But Lily had paid attention. She had memorized the movement, practiced it in secret, hoping she would never need it. She didn't fully understand why the man had taken her that morning, only that he wasn't supposed to be there, that this wasn't part of her life. Fear had wrapped itself around her like a cold blanket, but somewhere beneath it lived a spark of courage she didn't know she had. That courage carried her through the aisles. Daniel watched as the man stopped near the exit, glancing toward the doors as if calculating his next move. Daniel positioned himself closer now, close enough to intervene if needed, but still invisible in his intention. His mind raced through scenarios, protocols, worst-case outcomes. He thought about his own daughter, about how small hands trusted adults to keep them safe. He thought about how easily the world could fail someone Lily's size. Backup arrived quietly. 2 officers blending into the store as if they were just more shoppers. They caught Daniel's subtle signal, fell into position. The net was closing, slow and careful. The moment came without drama, without shouting, without chaos. The man made a mistake, an impatient tug, a sharp movement that broke the fragile illusion of normalcy. Daniel stepped forward then, his presence suddenly undeniable. Authority radiated from him, calm and absolute. The man froze, confusion flickering across his face as the situation slipped out of his control. The other officers moved in, swift and precise. Lily's wrist was freed. She stood there, trembling, as the adults around her shifted from danger to protection in the span of a few breaths. Daniel knelt slightly so he wasn't towering over her, his posture open, non-threatening. He didn't rush her, he let her breathe, let the shock settle. In his eyes she saw something she hadn't felt all day: safety. The aftermath unfolded like a slow exhale. The store resumed its rhythm, though a quiet reverence lingered in the air. Some shoppers sensed that something important had happened, even if they didn't know what. Lily was wrapped in a warm jacket, guided gently to a quiet room while authorities worked to untangle the truth. It turned out Lily had been taken by someone known to the family, someone trusted once, someone who had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Her parents had been frantic, searching, blaming themselves in the way only parents do. When they arrived at the station and saw Lily sitting there, alive and unharmed, the relief broke them open. Tears flowed freely, gratitude pouring out in broken sobs and shaking hands. Daniel didn't see himself as a hero. He filled out reports, gave statements, did what the job required. But when Lily was brought back into the room and saw him again, she did something that stayed with him forever. She lifted her hand, not in fear this time, but in a small, uncertain wave, a silent thank you. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. The image of that tiny hand forming the signal replayed in his mind over and over. He thought about how close it had all come to going unnoticed, how many times fear was invisible, how often cries for help were swallowed by noise. He thought about the power of awareness, of education, of one person choosing to look twice instead of once. Lily went home, but she didn't return to normal right away. Healing took time. There were nightmares, moments of silence where words failed her. But there was also resilience. Therapy sessions where she learned that fear didn't define her. School days where she slowly reclaimed laughter. And always, beneath it all, the knowledge that she had saved herself by remembering something small and brave. Her story spread quietly at first, then wider. Schools shared it, parents talked about it, officers used it in training sessions as a reminder that vigilance didn't end with a shift. The silent signal became more than a gesture, it became a lifeline. Daniel continued his work, but he carried Lily's courage with him. It reminded him why he wore the badge on the days when the job felt heavy, when the darkness seemed louder than the light. It reminded him that sometimes the most important rescues didn't come with sirens or headlines. Sometimes they came in the form of a trembling hand and a person willing to notice. As viewers, we often watch stories like this and think about what we would do in that moment. Would we see the sign? Would we act? Lily's story isn't just about danger. It's about awareness, about paying attention to the quiet signals around us. It's about believing that even the smallest person can make the biggest difference. If this story has touched your heart, if it's made you pause and think about the unseen struggles around you, please take a moment now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps these stories reach the people who might need them most. Before this story ends, I have a special request for you. Please comment below with one word that describes how this story made you feel. Hope, courage, tears, strength, or anything that came to your heart. Your words matter, and they remind others that they're not alone. Somewhere out there, another child might be practicing a signal in secret, hoping they never have to use it. Somewhere, another ordinary moment might become extraordinary because someone chose to look closely. And somewhere, kindness is waiting, not loud or flashy, but patient and brave, ready to change a life in the space of a single second.